Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So we are angled a little bit differently because it is daylight out and it's very bright, and we have these very sheer curtains, so it doesn't really help with blocking out the light. So we've angled a little bit away from it, so there is a little bit of brightness over on this side of the screen. So I do apologize for that. And you can also see, my dirty dishes that need to be washed over there in the sink. So sorry, my life's not perfect, but you guys already knew that if you have checked out this channel at all. So today we are going to be doing a mom life update, since I've only ever posted one mom life vlog, because that's pretty much where things went down the toilet. So I have put some notes. I'm going to turn on my do not disturb so that I don't ring and vibrate and nonsense. But I do have some notes to keep me on track because I'm really bad about that. So I just have my phone, and we're just going to set it up over here, and hopefully I can read it because I don't have my glasses on. So if I can lean in a little bit or squint, sorry. So we have a lot of ground to cover in not that much time because my baby's asleep and I don't want him to wake up screaming in the middle of the video. So let's just jump right on into it. So if you are new here, my name is Jennifer. My channel is Guided by Starlight, so you can call me Jennifer or Starlight. I am married and I have a son, and I have currently I have 3 animals. Previously we had 3 dogs, and unfortunately one of them has passed, and so we now have 2 dogs and a cat that my husband adopted. We will do a video about them later. We'll do kind of an intro video on them. So jumping right into it on this mom life vlog, I have been doing this mom thing for a year. He was born in February 21st of 2020 at 1:14 a.m. via C-section. And it is also C-Section Awareness Month, so C-Section mamas, where you at? Woo! So yeah, he was born then, and we were in the hospital for a few days, and somebody was taking care of the dogs while we were in the hospital. My in-laws were going over and taking care of them, making sure that they were fed and visited and pottied and loved on and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for that. So we were in the hospital for a couple of days, and we had somebody taking care of the dogs. And then we got sent home. And of course, that's like the most scary thing for a new mom and new dad, is going home with your tiny little, 3-day-old little baby child. And he was 9 pounds when he was born. So he was kind of a big baby, and he was, I don't remember specifically, I'd have to look back at some memories, but he was 8 pounds and some change when we left the hospital. But he was back up to his birth weight pretty quickly. By the time we went back to like our very first newborn appointment, he was back up to his birth weight. So that was good. He was very, very healthy. And that was really good. And I was very happy that he was doing so well, because I was worried that, obviously new mom worries that he was going to get sick, or that he was going to be like lagging and falling behind or anything like that. Because I was concerned that when I was pregnant, I had what is called a velamentous cord insertion. And basically what that means is my umbilical cord connected to the placenta in the wrong spot. So normally, like if this is your placenta, it's not accurate in size, but if this is your placenta, and this is your umbilical cord, it's supposed to be like in the middle. And mine was like, woohoo, way over here. And so I was a little bit worried that he maybe didn't get enough nutrients, or, something didn't go as it should have while he was in the womb. But he was perfect. He was fine. He was barely jaundiced. He was good weight. His hearing was good. Everything was great. Okay, you guys are good to be parents. Bye. So they sent us on our way. And we went home, and things were fine. We introduced them to the dogs, or introduced him to the dogs, and they kind of didn't care about him that much. Like, they were like, oh, what's this thing? Yeah, okay, whatever. And they kind of like left him alone. I would occasionally find Loretta specifically. She would, I'd have the bassinet out in the living room during the day, so that while he was napping, I could kind of move around and do things and still keep eyes on him, because I was paranoid that if I put him in the bedroom, I wouldn't hear him crying, even though I had a baby monitor. So he would be in his bassinet, and sometimes I'd see her like up on the arm of the couch, like peering in, looking at him. So that was always really sweet to see that she did like him at least a little bit, to check on him. And right out the gate, though, we did have a few issues. It wasn't all perfect, wonderful, lovely. So, the part that people don't talk about that much is the breastfeeding issues. I had intended fully 100% to breastfeed, and we tried like crazy in the hospital. And the lactation consultant was coming to the room multiple times a day. Basically, anytime I tried to feed him, she was there. And I don't know if I wasn't getting it, I don't know if he wasn't getting it, but we were not getting it. Like, I was doing everything she was saying, and she was saying I was doing it right, but he would not latch. Like, I would get him once in a while, he would latch for like a couple of seconds, but not enough to really get anything. And so they basically told me, the nurses and the lactation consultant basically were like, well, he doesn't want to do it, so you can keep trying, but it's probably not going to happen. And it kind of bothers me that they said that, because I feel like that is a big part of why I stopped trying. I didn't stop right away. I did continue trying once we went home, but he continued to not want to latch. We tried it with a nipple shield, without a nipple shield, and he just wasn't doing it. No matter what hold I tried or what I did, he just wasn't doing it. And maybe if I had kept at it, he might have, or maybe he never would have. But I feel like them just immediately saying, well, he just doesn't want to, so it's not going to happen, give up on it now, was kind of a shitty thing to do. So like I said, I didn't give up right away. I kept trying, but I had to supplement with formula because, he wasn't latching. And I was pumping as well, but I wasn't getting that much when I would pump. And I started exclusively pumping because I couldn't get him to latch, but I was still determined that he was going to drink breast milk because it's cheaper and it's healthy and it's supposed to be like the greatest thing in the world, but I couldn't get him to breastfeed. So next best thing, I'm going to pump and I'll give it to him in a bottle. But I wasn't making that much. No matter what I did, I tried to pump. I would give him formula, and while like maybe Sean would feed him, I would pump as if I was breastfeeding him. And so I was not producing enough to consistently feed him. So he would do like some breast milk and some formula. And that's kind of what we did for a while. And I tried to do like cluster feeding to increase my supply, and that didn't seem to work. And I just was getting really upset and really frustrated. And I was trying to stay hydrated and doing all the things that they say that you're supposed to do to increase your supply, and it wasn't working. And I think now that a lot of it probably was stress, that if I had just calmed down, it might have worked out a little bit better in my favor. So I think I only did that for like a month or two at most, and then I was like, I can't do this anymore. And we decided to switch over to formula, which I am not knocking at all. So I just want to make that very clear. If you are an expectant mother, or if you are already a mother, or if you are in any capacity feeding a child, I believe, personal opinion, that making sure your child is fed is what is important. If you want to breastfeed, more power to you. If you want to just say skip that and do breast or a formula, then do it. If you want to do a combination of both, do it. If you try to breastfeed and it doesn't work, don't feel any shame in having to give them formula. Make sure your baby is fed. Make sure your baby is taken care of. So I didn't feel too much guilt at switching him over to formula, because I knew that in the long run, it was a little more consistent, that he was going to be on the formula and he wasn't going to be sometimes getting breast milk and sometimes getting formula. And, so that was probably the first big hurdle that we faced, was the breastfeeding. The second big hurdle that we faced was how much to feed him, because they don't really tell you when you leave the hospital. They told us the very first day that he probably needs to have like his very first day, I think she said like half an ounce or something like that. It's crazy how much you forget once you've had the baby. Like, it's a year later and I can't remember. But that's all they ever said. They didn't tell us that, every so often, goes up and he needs more and he needs more and he needs more and he needs more. So I was having to Google, like, my kid, how much formula for, 2-month-old, how much formula for 3-month-old, how much formula for 4, 5, 6. And I was having to figure it out. And of course, when we did go to the doctor, I would talk to the pediatrician and be like, okay, so this is how much he's eating. Is that normal? Does he, is that too much? Not enough? Like, basically, we fed him until he was full. And when we first, very, very first started, like when we first brought him home in those first couple of weeks to that first month or two, we struggled with figuring out how much to feed him. So we would give him a bottle and we'd try to put him to bed, and then he'd wake up like an hour later screaming bloody murder because he was hungry. And we were like, oh, there's no way he's hungry. He just ate. But you know, now as an experienced mom, I'm like, he was still hungry because he wasn't wet. He didn't, you know, giving him a cuddle didn't help. He was hungry. And knowing how he is, I know that now. But being such a new mom, I didn't realize, I didn't understand that he was still giving hunger cues. And then fell asleep hungry and woke up starving. So knowing that now, next baby, I think we'll be good. I think we'll have it on lock. But because of those feeding issues, you know, we then had sleeping issues. So he was sleeping in our room in his bassinet next to me on my side of the bed so that I could get up and feed him and change his diaper pretty easily in the night. And Sean would get up and help me too. Like, it wasn't just me doing it, especially because he was on formula. So normally it would be the baby would wake up, Sean would go make the bottle, I would get up and change the diaper, and we would, you know, double team it and work together to get that done. But he would wake up all the time and cry and cry. And there was several times where, now thinking back, I'm like, he was hungry, dummy. You know, where we would try this and that and rocking him and swaddling him and I'll hold him and you hold him and bounce him and sway him and swing him and sing to him and kiss him and hug him and just give him a bottle because he's hungry. And we finally would, because, you know, in our minds it was like, he's not hungry. There's no way he's hungry. But he was. So being new parents, we were like totally clueless. And so looking back on it, if we had just fed him, he probably would have slept a lot better in that first couple of weeks. That we just weren't giving him enough. And so once we kind of got that figured out, things went a lot more smoothly. Obviously, he still wasn't sleeping through the night because they don't do that when they're that young, and they don't need to do that when they're that young. But he would sleep for longer stretches. I would get a couple hours of sleep, and then he would wake up, and we'd do the diaper and the bottle, and he'd go back to bed. However, he didn't really like the bassinet, so he ended up in our bed a lot. Which was something as funny that I always said I wasn't going to do. I was like, I'm not going to co-sleep. But we did. And I actually really liked it. I loved it. I loved my little cuddles because I would hold him and we'd snuggle. And I kind of miss it sometimes. But now he won't do it. He'll just kick you and slap you and be mean. And he sleeps really well in his crib now. So he was with us for, ultimately, because we moved. So moved out. I talked about that in my update video, that we moved in with some friends because of the pandemic. We were unable to like continue paying our rent because my husband was out of work because he was hurt. I was on maternity leave. Things were a big cluster. So we moved in with some friends. It was supposed to be temporary, and we ended up staying with them for about 6 months. And so he moved, obviously came with us, and so he slept in the bed with us still, until we finally were like, we gotta get this kid out of our bed. I can't handle this anymore. And we bought a mini crib. So he moved into his mini crib in the same room as us because we only had the one room in this shared house. So he slept in our room with us and in our room from the time he was born till he was 8 months old, I want to say. 8 or 9 months old. Well, I can math that, actually. Hold on, let me think. He was born in February, so 10 months. He was about 10 months old. And then we moved here to this house, and he has his own room and his own crib, and it's a full-size crib. And he wasn't sleeping through the night when we were staying with our friends. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the fact that, you know, there was multiple people in the house. So, you know, they would get up and get ready for work in the morning. So he would maybe hear them moving around to getting ready for work. Our bedroom was right next to the bathroom. So maybe he'd hear the shower kick on, or hear the toilet flush, or he'd hear them walking around, getting dressed and doing those things. They had a toddler. And so maybe he would hear her fussing when she got up in the morning. So he would wake up, you know, he'd wake up in the night. He'd wake up early in the morning. But once we moved in here, he started sleeping through the night. So I think it's a combination of hearing all of that, as well as sleeping in the room with us. You know, Sean snores. I talk in my sleep. So I'm sure we were loud and possibly also waking him up in the night. So, and then obviously having a 10-month-old sleeping in the room with you kind of puts a damper on the sexy times. So that was a bit of a wobbly area. And so we moved in here, and he's got his own room, and he sleeps through the night, and we have our own room, and our dogs are in the house again. So that is major plus. And so while we were living with them, obviously, like, he was going through milestones and doing all these things, and he went through a lot of his milestones very quickly. He is very smart, and a lot of the milestones that he has reached, he has done so because he wants something. So, like, he had a lot of tummy time. We had a lot of floor time because there was not really anything else to do. We were in the middle of a pandemic, so I wasn't like taking him out places. And the yard was not exactly kid friendly. Like, it was on a big hill. So I'm like, oh my God, visions of him just tumbling down the hill and me screaming, chasing after him as he rolls down the frickin' hill towards the road. So we didn't go outside that much. Like, I did take him outside, and I'd put a little blanket out and we'd sit outside, but he like wasn't allowed to leave the blanket, which wasn't an issue because he wasn't moving yet. But we'd go outside a little bit. Once he was sitting up and it was warmer, we would play out in a little kiddie pool, and he'd splash around because he really liked doing that. But when he was younger and he was inside, we had a lot of floor time, a lot of tummy time. So he learned to crawl very quickly. And it was like maybe like 2 weeks later, and he was trying to walk. Like, he was doing what they call like scooting or whatever, where he like, or cruising rather, cruising, where they stand up, they pull themselves up on the furniture and then use that to walk. So he was doing that very young. And by the time he was like 9 months old, I think, he was walking before we moved out. So he was like 10 months old when we moved out. And he'd been walking for a little while. So I want to say he was like 8.5, 9 months when he started walking. And now, you know, he's a year old. He's walking and running and figuring out how to climb on the furniture. Although we did just get new furniture, so it's a little bit higher off the ground than the other stuff was. So he's struggling a little bit to get up on there. But he's got like his little furniture that he climbs up on, like his little chairs and stuff. And when we were living there at their house, he did say his first word, which was mama. And now he refuses to say it ever again. I get it once in a blue moon, but 9 times out of 10, I'll be like, Nathan, say mama. And he'll look me dead in the face and say, Dada? How you gonna do me like that, man? I carried you for 9 months, and they cut me open to take you out, and you're gonna say Dada more than you say mama? I spend all day with you. We talk, we laugh, we play, we read, and you're gonna say Dada. The disrespect, man. Kids will break your heart. So his first word was mama, and now he says Dada, mama, dogs, that. So sometimes he'll point and he'll go, that. That is a dog. That is a door. That is a wall. That, you know. So that's something he likes to do. I think he's starting to say done, but he doesn't quite grasp what it means, I don't think. So he'll be eating his like lunch or his dinner or whatever, and he'll say done, but then he's still shoveling food into his face. So he says the word, but he hasn't quite gotten the connotation to what it means just yet. And like I said, we like to read, so we've got a couple favorites that he likes. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom is one of them that he really enjoys. Good Night Ted is another one. He really, really likes that one. And I'd say right now, those are probably his 2 favorite. Those are the ones that, like, we're putting him to bed and he's crying, and then as soon as he sees you pull that book out, he's like, all right, it's time. And he, like, immediately stops crying and is, like, zoned into what you're reading. So he really likes that. So we read him bedtime books every single night, no matter how late. We may adjust and read like a shorter book. If maybe it's really late and he really needs to go to bed, we might read a short book, but we still read. He's got so many, we need to get him a bookshelf because he's got a ton of books. And we're part of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, so he gets a new one every month. Definitely, I would recommend if you are pregnant that you should consider doing that. Even if you're not pregnant and you have already had your child and you are not part of it, I would consider looking into it because it's free. She sends you books based on their age. And I don't know exactly for how old, but I want to say it's until they're like 5 or 6. And it's like a book every month, I think. And it just ships right to your door, and it's an age-appropriate book for you to read to your child. So we read every single night. And we read a different book, not every single night. Sometimes we'll repeat if he's like really wanting to read like bedtime Ted, for 3 nights. We'll do it. We read what he wants to read. But we do try to mix it up and give him different things. And I just bought, they had a bunch of books. We don't have like a Walmart in this town. We're in a very small town. So all we have that's like a Walmart is a Dollar General. And we actually have 2. And so I was at the Dollar General the other day and they had some books that they were like, they had their like 75% off cart that when you walk in the front door that they're just trying to get rid of. And they had a bunch of books, little cart, like board books that were like $1 originally. So they were 30 cents. So you bet your butt I bought a bunch of them because they're 30 cents and they were cute and they had good messages. And if you destroys them, they were 30 cents. So I went ahead and I bought a bunch of them. Okay, so that's most of it, basically. That's like the speed run, catch you up on where we're at. And let's talk about his first birthday, because that's like the big milestone, right? He's a year old. It went great. Obviously, like pandemic, we didn't have like a huge party or anything. And I wouldn't have had a huge party anyway, because he's only a year. He's not going to remember it, and he wasn't that interested in like the party aspect. He wanted the cake and the ice cream, and he wanted to play with the presents, and that's really all he cared about. So it was a very small little get together here at my house. I made cupcakes, and it was just me and Sean and obviously Nathan, and my dad came, and my brother's girlfriend came. My brother had to work, my in-laws had to work, so it was just a very small little get-together, and he got to have a cupcake, which he obliterated. I did let him have a chocolate cupcake. I did chocolate and vanilla, and chocolate and vanilla with the matching frostings. And so I let him have a chocolate cupcake, and I let him have a little bit of ice cream, and he made such a mess, but he had a great time. And then, we opened presents, and he was like wanting them open now so he can play with them, and he still plays with them. Like, that's the one thing that I'm happy about, is he doesn't like pick 1 or 2 toys and that's all he plays with. So he'll play with like this week, and then next week he's into something else. So he kind of cycles his toys around. So I do like that I don't have to worry too much about like, all right, well, he doesn't ever play with this, so let's get rid of it. And we don't really plan to get rid of much, because we do plan on having more children. So the plan, I think, is when there's toys that he maybe doesn't play with as much anymore, or that he has outgrown, we're going to like box them up and put them in the attic to get down for the next child. And then obviously if we never decide not to give them to the new child, then we'll go donate them or something, give them to somebody in need. Because there's so many kids that, don't necessarily get toys and stuff for like Christmas and birthdays. So if we're not going to use it, I definitely would have no problem donating it to somebody who would. Yeah, and he does have one toy that he can't play with yet. It's a bike, but it's not a bike. It's like a scooter. So like you sit on it like a bike, but you just like use your feet. It doesn't have pedals or anything. And he's a little bit too small for it. So we have that just in his closet for now, for when he does grow into it. And then, not birthday related, but it was around the same time, we went ahead and we bought him a little blow-up kiddie pool for when the weather gets nice. We can have little pool parties. We bought him a little pair of swim trunks and a little pool and a couple little pool toys, and so we can play out in the pool when the weather gets nice. Like, it's really cold this week. We were having like really nice weather, like 70-degree weather, and then this week it's like in the 50s. It's cold, but this weekend is supposed to be back up in the 70s. So I told him if the weather gets nice enough and it's hot enough that maybe we can go outside and we can play in the pool, because he really gets a kick out of it. And we go on walks that he really enjoys. He likes being outside. So I absolutely cannot wait to take this boy camping, because I think he's going to love it. But yeah, that's basically the speed run. You are all caught up on how it was as a mom. I'm sure you didn't get like the super big in-depth details that you would have if I had been filming these as they were happening. But I didn't want this video to be too terribly long, and we're already pushing 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you guys all have an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more fun content. And, just, guys, make today magical. Bye!